Hello, everyone, and a very happy Wednesday to you today. My name is Sara Newman, and I'm very excited to be here today for this Altenew YouTube live video. So, welcome to everyone who is joining us today. I hope you are all doing well and taking good care. So, we are going to give just a few more seconds as people are jumping on. Today I have Lydia with me. She will be the one behind the badge, so to speak, and will be helping to keep things on pace. So I'm very, very happy to see folks are jumping in, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. So if you have not done a YouTube live with Altenew before, you may be new to the whole idea. So basically what we'll do is spend the next hour or so showcasing some stamping techniques, and today I'm going to do some really clean and simple looks using a very, very fun stamp set. If you are interested in possibly winning a $15 gift certificate to the Altenew store, then do share the video while we are live, and if you would let us know by posting in the comments below that you shared and how you shared. So if you include that, then the lovely Lydia will be able to choose someone as the lucky winner. So I see some folks jumping on. Hi, Chris. It's nice to see you. Bonjour. I hope things are going well in your part of the world. So I know we get folks joining us from all over. Which is really fantastic. We love to see everybody coming in, new faces, and some old friends too. So yes, hello to everybody. So I'm going to share with you the stamp set that I'm working with tonight. Let me get it turned around the right way. So today I'm going to be working with Simply the Best. And this is one of those stamp sets. As soon as I saw it, I got really excited because it's got flowers, which I love, and I know a lot of you love them too, but I also love that they are big flowers and they are layered flowers. So this is a lot of fun to work with, and we'll be looking at some different ways that we can put this together. So first of all, what you'll notice is that we have a layering stamp set. So this is going to be your silhouette, your bottom layer, middle layer, detail layer, and the flower center. Now, that's how it's supposed to go, but we're going to be looking at some other alternate ways that you can put these together, because of course you can use this on its own, you can use this and this together, you could use this and this. And yes, a comment coming through, love the size of the flowers. Yeah, the flower is about 3 inches. So if you're working on a 4 by 6 inch kind of smaller standard size card, it's going to fit perfectly. And the other nice thing that you have on here are lots of sentiments. So you've got one that says, hello, you amazing creature. Smile, today is another amazing day. You have, you are simply the best. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, which I really love that sentiment. I think that's just so very, very useful. And just a little extra something besides a thank you, which is always nice to get to. Your friendship means the world to me. That's a great one. And then, wow, you look absolutely gorgeous. Wouldn't we all like to get a card like that? So the nice thing about the sentiments too is that you've got a really nice readable font, really bold, really crisp. Well, the nice thing about these two is that they can be mixed and used together. So you could say, thank you from the bottom of my heart, and then put you're simply the best right underneath it or something like that. So you can do some mixing and matching with these as well. And because you've got a nice kind of smooth design, simple, modern, really clean, it means that you can also take the sentiments and stamp them on top. So we'll take a look at some examples for that, because that's a great way to fit your focal and your sentiment onto your card. So I noticed a couple of other folks have been jumping in. Hi, Sue. Nice to see you. It's great to see everybody who has been joining us. So thank you so much. And don't forget to share and post how you are sharing. Okay, so you can't wait to see me demo. Oh, good. Well, I can't really wait. I have a lot of card projects that I want to share with you today. So we're going to get to demoing a lot of them, and then I have some others that I'm just going to show you what I cooked up and some alternate uh, color combinations. One thing I want to point out, this stamp set has a die collection that goes with it. I do not have that. It's on my wish list. But if you are interested in this, you may also check out the die set, because I looked at it today and I was like, ooh, it's definitely on my wish list. It's going to give you the silhouette. It also gives you a die for the 3-petal, like the detail of the flower, and gives you a die for that little innie, which means that you can die cut the flower. You can also die cut separate elements and build things up with foam tape. And you guys know what I feel about foam tape. I just love creating lots of layers of dimension, and that's a great way that you can combine that. So keep that in mind as well. I don't have it, so I'm not able to share it with you today, but do keep that in mind. Okay, the other thing that I would say is that for inks today, I'm just using my favorite little square inks that I'm always working with, and you can substitute whatever ink colors you want. I'm just showing you kind of what I grabbed. And so, of course, there's going to be some Aqualicious in there, as well as some of those yellows and our Coral Bliss. I've got some Ruby Red, and then I've got some kind of autumn tones as well. So there's not anything specific that you need to know with the ink colors, only that when you're doing layering, of course, you want to have lots of, or 3 shades of the same color to create that depth in there. So if you guys are ready, then I'm going to go ahead and tilt down the camera, and we're going to get started with the first card project, which is kind of how you're supposed to put this together. And again, we'll look at some other alternate ways that you can use the stamp set, but this is going to be some really soft layering using our really pretty yellow colors. Okay, so clean and simple. I thought we'll keep it easy this time and just have some fun with it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is tilt down the camera, so hang in there with me as I angle this down. Okay, so I think you can see my work surface pretty well. You can see the glare of that light. Sorry about that. We're going to get started with this card. So what I'm going to be starting out with first is that bottom layer, adding the second, and then that detail on there. So the first thing I need to do is just grab a piece of smooth white cardstock, and I'm going to choose my ink colors. So I'm going to be working with these 3 yellows. So I've got Citrus Burst, and then I'm going to add another layer with a fresh lemon, and then the Honey Drizzle. So as you can see, I've got a light, medium, and a darker color, a darker shade of the same tone. I'm going to be working onto a smooth white cardstock, and I'm going to show you in a second why that's important. Just as I was playing around and experimenting a little bit with different papers and cardstock. Okay, so I'm going to pop this down, and I'm going to begin with my first layer, which is this big silhouette here. So this is going to be with my lightest color, which is the Citrus Burst. So let me fiddle with the packaging here for a second and pull this off. And I'm just going to pop that down on here. Okay, so you know the drill. You just need to grab that and add it to your other side. Here's another thing, really important with stamps like this from Altenew, and really from anybody. When you have a large surface area like this, the first time you use the stamps, when you just get them out of your package, sometimes you'll find that the first time you stamp, the ink doesn't transfer perfectly. So very often what you need to do is prime the surface of your stamp. And to do that, I just use a plain white eraser. This one is still in its packaging, so I can't show you. But basically what you do is just rub it all over the surface, kind of clean off the little eraser bits, and then ink and stamp. And this will get more conditioned, as they call it. the more you use it. But that's just a little tip that Tasneem taught me. So that's a good thing to keep in mind when you are first working with any kind of stamp, clear acrylic stamp that has a wide surface. Okay, so I'm just inking this all up with my Citrus Burst, and then close this up. Okay, so there we go. I've got my Citrus Burst, first round. Now it looks like I could go back and add a little bit more, but for right now, because I'm going to be layering, I'm going to consider that fine. Now what I need to do is layer the second middle image. So that's going to be this one here. And for this one, I'm going to take a little bit darker color, and this is the Fresh Lemon. So let me grab this. Now the next thing I need to do, of course, it's important with the layering process, is layer the elements up. So what Altenew always does with their layering stamps is they're going to give you a layering guide. So you'll notice I've already got this element stamped down. When I go to layer this one on top, then what I need to look for, and the blue lines on here will really indicate this, I need to, generally I always start with the center because that's the easiest area to kind of figure out and get aligned, and then take a look at the outer petals. So I've got basically where these blue lines are, and you can see in the center. Same thing when you're looking at the rest of the layering. So what I'm going to do is look for the center of my flower. I have to say it's a lot easier to do when you can stand, but I'm going to do my best here. I think I need to turn this a little bit. And then hopefully I'm going to be close enough. Okay. It's always easier when you're standing at your desk. You can angle a little bit better. Okay, so again, this is going to be the Fresh Lemon, and I'll ink this up. I will have to say though that with these stamps, and with a lot of Altenew's layering stamps, unless you're planning on die cutting or fussy cutting it, it never really seems to look that bad if they get a little bit offset. So sometimes I say that just to let myself off the hook, I think. Okay, let's see how we went. Okay, so more or less got it on there. I'm going to go back and add a little bit more color on here. And that's with the Fresh Lemon. And try this again, just to add a little bit more dimension. Okay, so I think we can see we've got a little bit more on there. Okay, so that's the Fresh Lemon. Now what I need to do is add the third layer. And that is this one right here. So again, same process. I need to line things up, starting in the center. And you can kind of play with this positioning on here a little bit. Okay, and this one I'm going to ink up with the darkest of my three, and that's the Honey Drizzle. This is why I love it that Altenew sells the little cubes in those coordinating sets where you get like several shades of green or several shades of pink. Okay, and then we have our final bit of dimension. And I just love this. I mean, it really is such a fresh and easy way to create some color and depth. Now, the last part that I have is this little flower center, the little innie bit. You can choose to do this if you want to. You could also leave it the way it is because there is some pattern in here. I think you can see that there's a bit of pattern in there that you could leave that as it is. I find that using this with an acrylic block tends to be just a little bit easier than using my Misty. So I'm going to pull this off. And we can do the inside. Let's see, what should I do that with? I'm going to grab the buttercream. And this is a very, very light yellow, but that will add just a little bit of color to the flower. So then there we go. Really pretty and really simple. Now I mentioned the cardstock that I'm using, and I'm using something that's like the Nina Classic Crust. It's a nice, smooth, sturdy, but very smooth white cardstock. I also have other cardstock in my stash, and I'm going to show you this flower that I did earlier today. This one is on, it's also fairly good, sturdy white cardstock. It's got a little bit of a grain to it, a little very faint bit of texture. And one thing that you may want to keep in mind when you're doing your stamping is that you will get very different looks depending on the type of cardstock that you're using. They can both be really good quality, but sometimes if you have a bit of a grain to your cardstock, then it will end up looking a little bit different. So either way is fine. There's not really a right or a wrong way to go about this, but just something that I thought I would point out to you. So here's my original card. We'll bring this back in. And as you can see, I've overstamped that hello sentiment, and I've used, you guessed it, my favorite, the Obsidian black pigment ink. And it just gives such a beautiful, crisp, contrasting effect. Now I've also wrapped some baker's twine around this panel of the card, and here you go, my love of foam tape. I've added this in here just so that I can lift it up with a little bit of dimension on there. So this is our first card. I think it's a really fun kind of sunshiny card, and one that is also, you can kind of go for it just about any occasion. And of course you can swap out the sentiment, and you can have a congratulations card, you can have a sympathy card, you can have lots of different card themes with this very simple effect. Okay, so that is our first card. Now I did want to show you an alternate to this, really only in color. So with this one here, I've got lots of warm tones, and I was almost thinking it had a kind of an autumnal look. And then I remembered that we're not in autumn. I'm kind of losing track of time. I don't know how you guys are doing, but sometimes I forget what day it is or season. And I was thinking this would be a nice card for fall, which is a long way off. But this is using some of the other warmer shades. And for this one, I'm going to start out with Peach Perfect. I'll work in Caramel Toffee. And then I'm going to add in the dark chocolate. And I think I also used a citrus burst for the flower center. So let's take a look at how to create this one. It's going to be the same process, just with some different colors. So it'll be fun to see how that looks different. So again, I'm going to get my paper in my MISTI. Now you don't have to use a stamp positioner for this if you prefer not to. That it will also work if you have some good aim. I just really like to be able to kind of do more layers of stamping, especially if I miss a patch with the ink. So okay, I'm going to align this and pop that down. And again, we'll start with our Peach Perfect. If this isn't making you hungry, between the Peach Perfect and the dark chocolate and the Caramel Toffee, why not? Okay, so here's the Peach Perfect, and we'll just pop this down, and you can see it's a really nice soft peachy color. Now again, I could do that a second round, but I think I will let it go and then just come back with my second layer. Again, trying to align this. Let's see, I think I've got it. Now I think I've got it. Okay, we'll pop this down there and we'll see how close I am. And the second layer is going to be our Caramel Toffee. And I'll just ink this up and hope that I'm Aiming fairly well. No, not quite. Well, you can see what happened there. I am off by just a little bit. I'm going to call it good though, and I'm going to, we've all been there, haven't we? I'm going to align the top layer. We're going to see how it turns out. Let's just see. And I'll pop in our third layer, and I'm going to try and match this one a little bit better. We'll see how we do here. Let's see, now I don't have my orientation. We're just going to go free fall with this one. Let's see how we do. Every day is a surprise these days, right, you guys? Okay, so even with our lives. Now this one is going to be with the dark chocolate. And let's see what we come up with here. Okay, so as you can see, it is not perfect by any means. But I actually kind of think that if I'd gone over that last layer a little bit better and add something in the center, it doesn't look too terrible. Not bad for doing it all kind of upside down and from halfway across the desk while on camera. So I'm going to call it okay, and then I'm going to show you the sample that I did better. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this one. So as you can see, when I was able to line it all up, it looks really nice. I love that peach color on here. I just think those warm tones combined with the dark chocolate are really fun and just give a nice warmth to it. And then your friendship means the world to me. I put this onto a craft cardstock, and I think that also helps with the warmth and kind of overall kind of simplicity of the card. Okay, so this is our second go round. Now let's take a look at what happens if you don't use your layering as it's supposed to be. Well, this card is showing our last two layers. So we're not using the silhouette, but we are using the middle layer and the center layer. So let me show you on the package. It's going to be this one layered with this one. So let's take a look at that process. And the other thing that I want to point out with this flower, because it is such a nice large size, and again, it's about 3 inches, you don't have to have it be the entire focal of your card. You can have it be kind of cut off a little bit and have a little bit of interest to it. Okay, so I'm going to bring this back in, and let's see here. For this one, I'm going to be working with a combination that I really love, 2 of these. So I've got the Coral Bliss, which is a really nice pale, kind of medium pink, and then we also have the Ruby Red. So this is going to be our first layer, and then the Ruby Red is going to be our second. So let me grab that middle layer there and pop this down. Okay. And ink this one up with my Coral Bliss. And I'm using the small ink pads. Of course, you know that Altenew also has the larger ovals, which will probably cover ink up your stamp a little bit more quickly than these ones. I just love the small ones because I don't have a huge amount of storage space in my office, so it's nice to be able to have so many ink colors with a smaller amount of space. Okay, so for this one, I am going to do this a second go. So let me grab my ink pad again, and this is the Coral Bliss. Okay, and there we go. So nice bright color. I am bothered by that. So I'm going to come back again, and let's really make sure I get that. There we go. Okay. Now, I think this is a lot of fun, and I think you could actually go with this. I mean, I think if you had a card, quick card that you wanted to do over stamp with one of your sentiments, and you would be in a really good place. But for this one, I'm going to add that second layer. So I've got this one here, and again, checking out the centerpiece. And then we'll just make sure that we can align from there. There we go. And for this layer, I'm going to be using the ruby red. So again, close this up and this. I love the two of these colors together. I think this is probably one of my favorite combinations, especially for flowers. It's always good to have some good green inks, and then also, of course, your reds and your blues. So there we go. And let me pull this off so you can take a better look. Easy peasy. And I love the detail on here. I love how it's all just matching up really easily. Now, the other thing you can do, like you can leave this as it is. You can add that flower center in there. So why don't we do that? I'm going to grab my little block here and my fresh lemon. I've got that one closest. Take the fresh lemon and turn this around here. And there we go. We've got some instant color on here. Now, if you wanted to add your sentiment, of course, the flower doesn't really have any orientation in particular, so it can go this way, it can go sideways, it can go however you want it. And you have some room on the top and bottom if you wanted to have it that way to have your sentiment. Let's just grab one of the sentiments here, and you can just see how it stamps up. So I'm going to take the one that says thank you from the bottom of my heart. And let's see, I know what I'm going to do. Move this around and then pop it right down here. So I can have the sentiment overlapping some of the flower because it is such a nice, simple motif. You can really get a lot of use from this. So in this case, I'm going to be using the obsidian, which I know you guys know that I love this. I love this black. This is one of the best black ink pads. Okay, and then just pop that down. And you can see how crisp and pretty that is, just standing out from that flower. I'm going to move everything aside, pull this off, and then we can take another look. So I just love that you can do so much with this. And this is just three, counting the inside of the flower. This is just 3 little passes with your layering stamps. So don't forget you can mix and match those layers as well. Now with this one, I've just added the smile sentiment, a couple of little sequins here. And again, I've trimmed off a portion of this flower, but you could have it, of course, going the entire width of the card as well. So this is, and I love using this with the orange. I think this is just a nice, warm, cheerful color combination. Oh, and I also have some other examples of this to share with you. So here are 2 others that I did using the same kind of 2-step process. So here's one where I'm using some, I think it is lavender fields. It's a nice light lavender, and then I've got the blue overlapping that. I think my stamp was actually a little bit dirty, so it may have been a combination of some of the purple and the blue on there, and then the yellow flower center. And again, over stamping with that sentiment. Now, with a card like this, you could simply wrap some twine going around the base of it like we did with this card here. Have a really simple layout. Or you could add some sequins, or you could just leave it as it is. Or if you had the dies, you could mask this off and do some spattering around the outside edge if you wanted to too. Now, with this one, here's that really fun, wow, you look absolutely gorgeous sentiment on here. And then this one again is working in with some pinks and blues on here, and nothing in the flower center except for the pattern that's on there. So a couple of different options when you're looking at doing just the 2 layers on here. So also a lot of fun. All right, so I've got 2 more other examples to share with you. So I'm going to move these out of the way and show you one that is very, very subtle, and I really, really like this. Now, the ink color that I'm using here on the background is Dewdrop, and it's a very, very light, pale blue. It's one of my favorites. It works great for the bottom layer of your layering stamps, but it's also just really beautiful on its own. And in this case, what I'm using is that top layer, or the detail layer, this little part of the flower, on its own. So we talked about using the flower as it's supposed to be used, but then you can also use lots of the other elements separately too. So once again, let me grab my Misty. I'm going to move this out of the way. And, oh, I've got ink pads everywhere here. I don't think I'm the only one who ends up with just more ink and more supplies than I need at my fingertips. Okay, and I'm going to start with this. And because I'm going to be stamping around the outside edge, I'm going to take my biggest magnet and just kind of set it in there. And then what I can do is grab my stamp, and I'm going to be working around the outside edges here. So I'm just going to pop this down on one side, and I'll be working my way around. So this is the Dewdrop, as I mentioned, a really nice soft color. Just absolutely adore it. And I love it on the white. I mean, you could do lots of different combinations with this. It looks like it also still had a little bit of my other ink on there, which is fine. This is great for working with a dirty ink pad or dirty stamp. You can, of course, take advantage of some of those surprise colors that you might get. Okay. And close this up. And then what I'm going to be doing is just alternating, kind of turning this around to have it go in different orientations. You could also do some ink combining on any of your stamps as you go along with this process too. So I'm quite liking how that's turning out. My accidentally patterned colored design. So put one down here too. I'm really just leaving the center of this open, although I don't need to be too careful about leaving a certain amount of space, because these are going to be so light that it will be fine to have the black overlapping. Now I'm going to turn this a little bit here. I want to get this area here. So I'm going to put this one down and just kind of filling up the space. Okay, pop that down. And I'm going to talk about my hack that I did on my top piece of the Misty sheet. Something that I learned about that I wish I could remember where I learned it, because it's a great little tip. I'm going to slide this over, and I have just a little bit of space here that I can grab up and ink. Okay, so now I've got a lot of my piece done. Now this portion here, because I've got a lot of ink going around on the outside, I can just wipe this off. As I mentioned, I think I mentioned this in other lives too. I took one of the sheets from the Misty, and you could laminate it. I just covered it with 2 pieces of clear packing tape, and that kind of gives me a slick surface so that when I am stamping off the edge of a piece of cardstock, I don't end up with a bunch of like ratty pieces of stamped on paper that kind of get a bit tattered. So that was my little trick that I've learned from somewhere. Thank you to whoever passed that on. Okay, now I've got my outlines going around the edges, and I really like how that looks. And I can use my magnets to tack down the outside edges. And then I can just sort of audition which of the sentiments that I want to go in here. What's going to fit in here really well? Let's take that, let's see. Let's take the friendship one. And again, pop that down here, right in the center. And again, I'm going to be working with the obsidian. Nice crisp black. Although you could certainly work in any of the other colors too. And there we go. So I'm going to pull this off, and we can take another look at this, as well as another example that I wanted to show you. So here's the one that we just did with my dewdrop plus a little bit of leftover, would have been ruby red on there. And here's what it looks like with just the dewdrop. I think two really pretty color combinations on there. Now I'm going to show you, let's see if I can find the one. Oh yes, here it is. So here's one that I did earlier that's just on a smaller piece of cardstock. And again, that little friendship sentiment in there. Now this, I think any of these would just make a really pretty, quick and easy card. Again, quite clean and simple. You can add some more to it if you wanted to add spattering, maybe with a black. You could also add in some dimensional embellishments if you had some sequins or some little rhinestones or something like that. But I think it definitely can be just the way it is. Now with this one, again, I popped this first layer up onto foam tape and then just put it down onto the front of a plain white card. Okay, so got one more that I want to share with you. Now this one, of course, I had to work in my Aqualicious, so I'm going to be sharing that with you. This is using, again, that same stamp, the one that we just looked at for this card, but I've stamped it in my beloved Aqualicious and then also in the black. So it's the same stamp, slightly angled, or twisted, so that I've created some additional petals on here. And then I've overstamped with the hello sentiment. So let's take a look at this and see how this process goes. Okay, and for this one, as I mentioned, it's Aqualicious. I can't resist it. I have to use it. I might actually be addicted to that ink color. I'm not sure. Okay, and again with this one, we're using our flower piece, the top layer, and I've arranged mine so that I had it, again, going off the edge of my card. So we can do that. You can also put it right in the center if you want to, just so that you can see. I'm going to pop it down here, make it a little bit easier to see. Okay. I've left a bit of a print there. That's fine, because the Aqualicious is a darker color. So we'll just pop this on. And press this down. So again, really pretty, just the way it is. Okay, dab off some of that excess ink. Now the next thing I'm going to do is take the same stamp and I'm going to stamp it on top of this, only I'm going to reposition things. Now it's not meant to do this, which means that your flower center is not going to perfectly align. And that's okay for most people. If you're really, really perfectionist about this, I do have a solution for you, but see how it looks. Let me see what you think. Okay, and again with my obsidian black, I think part of this is that I just love that combination of teal and black. I think it just looks really cool together. Okay. And there we go. And that's all there is to it. So now I am going to pull this off so that you can take a closer look, because depending on the kind of stamper you are, we'll talk about that flower center. So it's not perfectly aligned, the pattern on here, because the flower center is not perfectly symmetrical, which is what helps you to align the innie when you're doing the layering the way you're supposed to be doing it. Now, if this bothers you, there's a little bit of texture on there. What you can do, and what I did in the center of this one, is I just added some yellow in there, and that's using that center stamp. So I just kind of stamped over it to kind of mask any of the Aqualicious pattern on there. So you could really only see the black. However, if this bothers you, and I know that there are some who it will, which is fine, if you have any of those brads that are like a 22 millimeter brad or a cluster of adhesive embellishments, you could put something on top of this that could easily disguise that. So you've got a couple of options with that. I just thought it was still a really valid thing to show, because I think it gives a really, really cool look. It almost looks like, I don't know, a bit retro to me, but mid-century modern, really fresh and pretty. So, and in addition to this, you can then add your sentiment on here. So let me show you my original card again. We can take another look at this. So in this case, I've just trimmed off the excess, added my hello sentiment on here, and then just cut this piece down slightly smaller than my card base and popped it on top. Again, you could add a lot more to this card if you wanted to. You could have spattering, you could wrap the side with twine or ribbon if you wanted to. All of that is perfectly fine as well. So consider these clean and simple, but with possibility for adding more to them. Now, two other things that I wanted to show you, and I realized as I was working along that I'm not sure that I showed you this one. So when we were talking about doing just 2 layers, like this one here, I tried it out in a moon rock. That's that kind of grayish green that you can see here. Moon rock and obsidian. And again, different orientation. You've got one vertical, one horizontal, one that's really kind of fresh and sunshiny, and one that's a little bit more, I don't know, is it more masculine? Is it more serious? I'm not sure what it is, but I do think that it is a really nice combination. And I do like it again with the craft cardstock and the gray and the black on here. So if you're looking to go for completely different looks, just switch out your ink pad colors and you will have a lot of very cool options. And again, I've got my stamp sentiment down on here too. Now the last thing, the very last thing that I wanted to show you is another option that I didn't have time to create anything with this, but I love combining the embossing powders in here. This is the middle layer. So we've been talking a lot about that last layer. This is the middle layer, and this has been heat embossed using the Golden Peach embossing powder. Now this is one that just has loads and loads of possibilities. You can color in the inside. You could use your artist markers. You could use your watercolors. You could use your dye ink pads as watercolors. You could do lots and lots of different things with this. This is one that I think would definitely look beautiful if you had the dye, because then you could pop this out. You can do several of them and you would have a really beautiful card focal or accent, or you could cut many of them and have them kind of clustering together or grouping together. So just another bit of food for thought for you as we are wrapping up this evening. So what I'm going to do is tilt up the camera, so hang in there with me as we go up. Hopefully you're not too dizzy after that. And once again, just a quick reminder that you do still have a few minutes to share tonight's live while we are live. and maybe in for a $15 gift certificate to the Altenew store. So keep that in mind. Do post it down below if you haven't already. Let us know that you shared and how you shared. So, oh, you're loving the peachy tones today. You know, I like that too. And it was really fun to combine the peach and the dark chocolate. I like those two colors together. I think it does give a really nice, warm kind of sunflower effect. Okay, so once again, the stamp set that we're working with is the Simply the Best. And I'm not sure that I showed this part to you. So they always include some project ideas. And we've got some here. And then, of course, always the layering guide as well. So remember, just follow that center and then a line from your petals. Stand while you stamp if you can. It makes it a lot easier. Or don't do it at arm's length trying to match the camera. Okay, I'll whiz through the cards just one more time. You can take another quick look as we go. So we've done our layering the way it is supposed to go with our fresh lemon colors. And I really like it with the black and white on there too. You can also go with warmer tones too. And then we've got the red and the coral, two of my favorites together. Little pop of color. And in contrast, our moon rock and black. The flower is cool, isn't it? Yeah. And then let's see. I've got so many pieces around me. Oh, and then doing our around the edge effect using just that detail layer, just enough to highlight your sentiment. And then finally our 2 layers with just a little bit of offsetting on there. So that is what we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to the lovely Lydia for showing all of the links in there. If there were any questions, I'm sorry because the camera's tilted down. I can't see them very easily as they're coming through. So hopefully we got any of your questions answered. Thank you again so much for joining us. Do have a look at the Simply the Best stamp set and keep an eye out for that matching die set too, because I think that would be a lot of fun and a great way to combine those two. Perfect for springtime and looking ahead into some warmer weather. Okay, thank you guys so very, very much for joining me tonight. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and rest of your week. I am back next month, a couple of weeks, and we will be doing even more, doing some fun classes and other videos for you too. So keep you posted on all of that. Thank you so much, and I will see you again next time. Take care.